baby bird.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ray's Video Diary number 8. At this point of the story, I want to say a good 8 to 10 years went by. Not surprisingly, I really thought about Ray often. Where Ray was adopted from wasn't really convenient for my daily drive, so I never really made a point to go over there and ask if he's still coming in, if he's still getting his nails done. Conveniently, though, they moved the business right where I work. With that being the case, I went in often. At the beginning, I really liked the place. I wanted to throw them as much business as I could because I liked what they were doing. One day I was in there working with a bird as I really wanted to get another bird. After having Malcolm for a good year, I felt it was time to get a second bird. I would visit this bird often, maybe 3-4 times a week. The bird never really liked me. I eventually got to a point where I had to give up. On the final visit, I felt sadly defeated. I felt that was it. When I came out, I noticed the woman that I remembered from back in the day was standing at the counter. I asked her if she ever sees Ray or if she ever remembered Ray, for that matter. I mean, it was a long time. At this point, when I was working with that bird, maybe a month plus has passed, and I just casually asked her out of the blue if she ever sees Ray. Her response knocked me back. She told me that Ray was in the back. Now, when I was there working with that other bird, I came into a room that had eggs, and when I walked back there, I noticed in the larger bird room that there were probably 3 or 4 caiques. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong, but I remembered one looking like Ray. And I asked the person that was working there, a young kid, if these birds were up for sale. Because, I mean, I would have loved to have, gotten a caique, and that one looked like Ray. There was one there that looked exactly like Ray. So I asked him, and he said, no, these are birds that are being boarded for customers. I was bummed. So I walked out of the room, and that's when I walked up to her. And it reminded me about Ray, because when I walked up to her, that was the first thought. I was like, man, that bird looked like Ray. So when she said that, it all kind of was like, oh my God, that was Ray. So, but all I could think is, what are the odds? What are the odds that Ray was right there, 8, 9, 10 years later? I don't know exactly how long it was. A lot of time. And my first thought was, can I see him? I've missed him for a very long time, and I have history with him. So all I wanted to do was see if he remembered me. Her response was, of course. So she went, she got him, and she brought him out. I never had any issues with that woman. She was very nice, always professional, always just enjoyed what she did. And if of anybody that appreciates somebody that is doing a job because they love what they're doing, I had full respect for her. I mention this because of something that I will talk about later in the story. So when she brought him out, I just initially started to build up a bit of emotion inside. It's like, oh my God, it's Ray. It's Ray. So the first words that came out of my mouth is, Ray, do you remember me? And I have the memory or the vision in my head every time I think about that, of him bouncing up and down as Ray does, as I've shown on video, and giving a little whistle, and he went to me, and I just started crying. I mean, I don't say crying. I mean, I would say my eyes filled with tears, but I was happy. I was like, I knew, because the kid said that these birds were being boarded, so obviously I knew that Ray wasn't there for any reason other than his people probably went out of town for a little bit. At this point, it was hard. I didn't want to let him go. I figured this would be the last time I ever see Ray. Well, a great way to say goodbye, but because I never got to say goodbye before, so I wanted to hold him for a little bit. So I did. I spent a good 10 or 15 minutes with him, and we looked out the window. It was great just being with Ray again. I was happy. I was happy to have him. At this point, I handed Ray back, and I asked them, what's the story with Ray in the back? I was curious. And they told me that, they lied to me. They told me the people moved overseas, and they didn't want to put him in any danger, so they put him back up for adoption. That wasn't the real story. I found that out way later. There was a bit of truth in the story, but there was also a bit of lies that they were trying to sell a bird, so they weren't telling everything. And when I say they weren't telling everything, That is a very true statement, because I found out things after the fact, after I already spent $1,600 for a 20-year-old bird that was wrong, that was very unethical, I guess is the best way to put it. What really happened to Ray was he was abandoned. Ray was, okay, so the people did move away and moved maybe overseas, but what they did is they put him in there for boarding and they just left him. They left him there and they had him for 4 months. And they didn't get any, they didn't see about his health, they didn't, which they could have, because our local pet vet is the one pet vet we have in the surrounding area, and Ray had a history there, and they actually were able to get that info after I got him, because I had questions, because there were things going on with him that I needed to know about. But just to bring the story back, at the moment, I was excited. I was ready to take him home. They had their hoops I had to jump through first, and I was totally okay with that. So I did. I jumped through all the hoops. Then they told me he would cost $1,600 to take home. That was a punch to the gut, but I was taking Ray home. No matter how you look at this, my boy was coming home with me. They didn't tell me anything about the health issues he had. He had heavy seizures. He had a bad left leg. He had a bunch of stuff. And I didn't know any of this until after the fact. And all I could think was, did they know? And then finding out after I already got him that they absolutely knew, because whenever he would get his beak done, he would have seizures. And nothing, and that was never told to me. And he has since had multiple seizures, and it's hard. And I will tell a story about that in the future, in the next video actually. But he financially, I mean, it's been a lot. It's been a lot, but you know, it's Ray, and he was coming home with me. But I was angry. I was angry with the fact that they lied to me. So at the end, I tried my best to talk to them and hope that they would make it right in some way. Just at least help me with a little bit of the costs right out of the gate that I had to deal with. But they were like, nope, you can give him back. Obviously, I wasn't giving Ray back and getting my money back. There was no way. Not at this point. That was ridiculous. And that was, that hurt that they even had that conversation with me. They chose to be the villain in the story. I lost all respect for them. I never went back since then. I make sure to not recommend them to anyone I speak to, because what they did to me was wrong. At the end of the day, it's funny. They really didn't have to play any games with me. Telling me the truth, Ray still would have come home with me, but at least I would have known all the little specifics. It was great having him home that first day, and he has been an incredible gift to me. But there's one final part to this story. One amazing little part. I would like to thank my Patreon members for their support. It's very much appreciated.